Welcome back. This is Gary Minchell. This is my fourth part of the 10-part series exploring Romans as a spiritual formation handbook. And this section is a little bit different. So it's going to be based on the section of the letter we call chapter 2, verse 17 through chapter 3, verse 20. I call this Sin and Awareness Part 1A. I don't know why I called it that way, but we'll go with it. But we're still in this idea of sin and awareness, and this gets a little strange for us modern people, especially modern Americans and wherever you might be listening, because he's got a problem he needs to reconcile, and that has to do with the divide of Jewish and non-Jewish people called Gentiles. So anyway, let's dive in. And remember, I'm a longtime teacher and writer and philosopher, but I am not a theologian or a preacher, and we'll just approach it that way. And just kind of looking through this book, not for really, really deep underlying theologies and stuff, but what's Paul really trying to tell us? So this passage of Romans begins a bit strangely to us. We must remember Paul has a problem different from what we face, although the problems we face are similar, so maybe we can extract his problem into our problems today. And this is the cultural distinction from the Jewish point of view, of course, where humanity is neatly divided into those who are Jewish and those who are not, called Gentiles. The Jews thought they were God's chosen people. They missed the part where Abraham was told that he would be a light to the world. They thought they were it, and the only it. And by the way, this isn't a unique thought throughout history. Even today, we have cultural groups all around the world. Just step back, do what I tell you not to do, which be look at the news. But anyway, all around the world, we have cultural groups. How many do we have in America? We must have more than a dozen cultural groups that think they are the only chosen people. But that may be a future lesson. Back to the Jews. Jesus was definitely a Jew. As far as we can tell, all of his original followers were Jewish. Jesus dealt fairly with people in Galilee and Judah who were not Jewish. I've never seen a document that disputes the fact that this began as a Jewish movement. But if you look at the way Jesus treated people, there are so many examples of Samaritans and Syrians and Phoenicians and other Romans and other groups where Jesus dealt fairly with them. But it was a Jewish movement to begin with in the very beginning of the movement, the way. So immediately following his death and resurrection, the movement rapidly spread throughout the region, first, Palestine, the Palestine area, and then up through Turkey and Greece and all the way to Italy and around the other way. And there are stories of one of the disciples, Thomas, actually going to India. So that's quite a ways away. He had to go through today's Syria, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan to get to India. That's a heck of a way to go. There are stories of him being there. So it spread through North Africa, which was part of the Roman Empire at the time. But so we get just a few years, not very many years after Jesus' resurrection, we come to Paul, and Paul has his big Damascus Road experience and meets Jesus and was appointed apostle to the Gentiles, charged with spreading the word not just to the Jews living throughout that world at that time, but to specifically Gentiles. Although he always started with the Jews, but we won't go there. So Paul was a Jew, proclaimed himself a Pharisee of Pharisees. In other words, he was like the best Pharisee there could be a Pharisee of, which sounds kind of like Pharisees, and we have Pharisees today who think, well, anyway. So his heart was broken by the rejection of Jesus by the Jews. So he yells at them. He says, "For it is written, the name of God is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you." Okay, that's a pretty powerful statement. He's saying, you need to think about these people not Jewish, and because of the way you talk and the way you live and the way you divide things up, you're actually blaspheming the name of God. That is, making God less than all-powerful. So they think they have it made because they have the law, capital L. I talked about that, capital L law, which is Jewish law. A key part of the law was that every Jewish boy is circumcised ritually as a mark of salvation. Paul would call this salvation through works. In other words, something physically done to prove that you're one of the chosen people. Had a woman in a class I taught one time was, how did they know you were circumcised? And we just all kind of looked at her. Yeah, well, you look. But anyway, returning to the topic, we must be aware of our sins. He negates circumcision. He says, no, not at all, for we have already charged that all, both Jews and Greeks, are under the power of sin, as it is written, there is no one who is righteous, not even one. So he says, and he continues, he's quoting now from his scriptures, which, are our Old Testament, so we say, there is no one who is righteous, not even one. There is no one who has understanding. There is no one who seeks God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. There is no one who shows kindness. There is not even one. Their throats are opened graves. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of vipers is under their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and misery are in their paths, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Boy, that really sounds like a preacher to me. He's leading up to some kind of a statement here. He's leading up to recognizing two important concepts of spiritual reality, faith and grace. He concludes this whole list by saying, for no human will be justified before him, God, by deeds prescribed by the law. For through the law comes the knowledge of sin. We don't enter a right relationship with God because we have followed a law or a bunch of laws or all 618 laws or whatever it is. Before we can proceed, we must become infused with the knowledge not only in our brains but in our guts. Our total awareness needs to see this. Once during a meditation session, I was passing by an old decrepit house, kind of like Scooby-Doo. I was drawn to the porch and then the open door, and I opened the door, and a guide met me, and he, she, it, whatever, the guide let me in, and we looked around, and there was another door, and this one went to the basement. Okay, you Jungian psychologists, you eat this up, but live with me, it was a vision. And I opened the door, went down the stairs, and there I was introduced to every imaginable sin, just before my eyes. Murder, rape, incest, whatever. And my guide let me realize that within me lay the capabilities to commit any sin. And I think this is where Paul was trying to take us, that I came out of that with a deeper understanding of how I am, that it was some months before the next step in that story and that meditation came about, and that's another story. But anyway, it's when we have the realization that, yes, we are capable of, we may not be doing it, we may just have like little sins, but if you look inside, you could see we're all capable of great sin, actually, and who knows what prevents us from going even deeper into it. But that's where Paul's leaving us, but he's not going to leave us here because we need to keep on reading. So we'll go to the next part coming right up. Thank you for listening and have a blessed day, and meet you in the next session.